This one is one live. Alright, so Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. رضي الله تعالى عنه وسادة التابعين وعلماء عاملين وآئمة أربع مجتهدين ومقالديهم إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So the topic of discussion is about developing a sovereign psyche, an independent mind state. And reason why this is so important, I want to make a couple quotes. And what I want to do is I want to make my case in point from incidents that happened in the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, and our main focus will be around Surah Kafirun from the Quran, right? Surah 109. The discussion in itself is developed and is, you have to take in consideration this one particular statement. If you look over the last, close to 200 years, the world has been shifted by European colonialism, right? Whether that's the French, whether it's Germans, whether it's the Italians, the Dutch, the Americans, they've shifted the world and they occupied everywhere, and they left their financial institution behind. They left their political philosophy behind. If you look in the majority of the Muslim nations, when I'm saying Muslim nation, I'm talking about nations that have a large population of Muslims. Those particular nations in themselves, they all share some sort of European political philosophy. When I was in school and I was taking up sociology, my professor, she was an attorney as well. But one of the things that she pointed out, she said that, anywhere when Europeans were at, you can always tell when they was there because of what they left behind. And so she asked, well, what was it, what did anybody have any idea what they left behind? So, everybody was like, style of clothing, food, the basic things that you can see. She said, no, whenever they left behind, they always left behind their judiciary. Right? They left behind their legal system, their court systems, how they ruled. And if you look at every nation, like, if you take Saudi Arabia, for instance, right? Usually Saudi Arabia is supposed to be the landmark for Islam, right? Because of the haram, the hijaz, everything that's there. And so what's happened is in Saudi, when you look at what is their actual political program, what do you think their political program is? What would you think?
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Political.
Like, what do you think they rule a country using? Like, what system?
The Sharia law.
You would think they would rule with the Sharia, right? Because of how, when you view them, they got women wearing all black, women entrance, men entrance. You got a mall, the women go on the mall on one side where you can't see the women, and the men on the other side of the mall. And if you get caught talking to women in public, you get lashed and everything like that. Well, Saudi has a mixture of a monarchy, and they mixed it with a little bit of Islam, where they have almost the same resemblance, same political program as England. The king, you got the parliament, they got all that, and so it looks Islamic. You take other countries, for instance, like countries like Yemen and places like that, where you would think those as well were utilized as Islamic area. Only thing Islamic there is probably the books, right? Outside of that, many of them are using socialism, democracy, Marxism, and so on and so forth. And if you pay close attention today, a lot of Muslims today, and I'm talking about African American Muslims, they have the same mentality. Most African American Muslims don't realize it because all European systems is promoted with atheism, secularism, atheism with tolerance of people practicing different religions. But the way that they tolerate you practicing your religion is you're really changing and conforming your religion. You're changing it to fit in their, into their program. And so I'm looking for this particular quote right now that I want to quote to you. That on September 6th, right, in 1943, Winston Churchill was the prime minister, in the British and England. He gave a speech telling people it was like a wartime speech, right? And basically, what he was saying was that the war has changed. You're no longer fighting over land. You're not fighting over land, and this is very relevant to our situation because the more when you start to really research and really dig, you will begin to start to see that this philosophy is taking over the Muslims. Now, reason why I picked to highlight on Surah Kafirun, you'll see why there's a big difference. Now, Winston Churchill, he said that the empires of the future are the empires of the mind, right? If you can control a person's way of thinking, you got everything else. And the proof of that is if you look at the transatlantic slave trade, right? There's a big difference. The struggle was shifted. If you read about early on up until maybe the 1800s, from the 17 to 1800, right? You will read about rebellion, right? Like men like Nat Turner, okay? Nat Turner, if you don't know a little bit, you don't know about him, Nat Turner, he was literate. He could read. Out of most of the people that was on the plantation, he was one of those who were fortunate enough to be able to read. Secondly, his mother was narrating to him about where they came from originally. So thirdly, he was of the Christian faith, but he believed, that Jesus told him to kill a white man, right? I kind of like his Jesus, but anyway. So he told him to kill a white man, right? And so what he did was he started a rebellion. You shifted back now, you shifted forward up to the 1960s. Everybody was talking about integrating and, getting along, living together. How do you go from kill a white man to let's live next door to him? Somewhere down the line, your thinking had to change. You had to change. Somewhere down the line had to change. When you put two rival gangs against each other, you got Bloods on one end, Crips on the other end. They're going to fight in the small. And when you even come to a truce, the smallest little thing, they're still like rattling the cage, like the gorillas is shaking the cage, like, yo, anything go. I'm telling you, it's going down. How do you go from you were taken away from your native land, your native tongue, to now we need to participate in a political process so that we could take over, or we can change laws and things. You're talking about, and if you look at the narrative from that to that, at one point in time, so it's I don't know what happened to his I don't know what that is. I think you can just do this right here. So the broadcast was paused. Okay, resume. So what you taking here. Now let's look at the original people who were brought over here, right? They spoke a different language. They didn't share the same belief. right? They didn't even dress the same. They didn't even eat the same. You took them, you had to start doing things to them, taking their children, raping their women in front of the men, where the man looks helpless. Because what does that do to the woman? What does that do to the woman? She believe like, yo, you can't help me. You see what I'm saying? Now, if you look right now, in all honesty, you have to really look at it. In the black family, does the woman really believe that the black man can actually do anything for her? She really doesn't. Most of us know we ain't doing nothing. We usually like, man, babe, you go down here to the county assistance office and, do your thing, right? And then we feel like sometimes the only way that we can do something is because we've been mentally programmed is to do some type of criminal behavior in order to survive, right? So, I got you. So you have to do some kind of criminal behavior in order to survive. In order to make a living, you have to think like a criminal. Like, yo, this has become like your jacket. This has become who you are, man. You got a lot of advertisement on here. So, this has now become who you are. This has become, defined as now who you are. Now, okay, you're going through all of this now. You have a criminal mentality. The only way that you think that you're like legal eagle, like you're flying straight, is to go over to the other side. What happens to the other side now? Now you no longer talk with your own dialect. Now you're talking with what is called the proper dialect. Yes, sir. How you doing today? You got tats all up your body and all that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right? This is what's happening. Muslims go for jobs. They take the kufi off, right? And Muhammad, no, call me Maurice. Call me Maurice. I prefer Maurice. You make a whole change. So you were mentally broken down. You lost yourself along the way. Islam not asking you to lose yourself. Now, in the midst of all of this, and I'm directing these comments at our people, indigenous people, in the midst of all that, we see Islam, and so we're automatically trained. Our minds go in the default click. I ain't no Arab. I ain't gonna be dressing like no Arab, and I ain't gonna be speaking like no Arab, and I ain't gonna be doing this, and I ain't gonna be doing that. Why? Because you're pulling me away from what I've been trained to do. And what's that? Now I'm waving the flag of the white American culture, right? You've been trained like that. You don't even want to learn Arabic, right? You don't even want to learn Arabic. And when you do the history, there's a lot of Arabic manuscripts found right here. One of them found in, what's that? No, right in North Carolina. What's that out there, the county out there where Umar bin Said was?
Yeah. Cumberland County, Fayetteville.
He's out of Fayetteville. It's right here, written in Arabic, right? Right here. You would think that will motivate us, but it doesn't. Everybody that becomes Muslim, you'd be like, yo, here, hand them the book. Yeah, so it's all Arabic, man. You ain't got this in English, right? So it takes away. You will never be able to develop a culture with that type of mind state. So then you got all of this rhetoric, this arguing going back and forth. You're arguing about bits and pieces of things that will make you become sovereign. It appears outwardly as if you're an independent individual because look, I choose to wear thobe. Y'all go ahead and keep wearing, them Catholic clothes, but I'm wearing Muslim clothes, right? Then they developed the other rebuttal, there ain't no such thing as Muslim clothes. If the Prophet was here, I hate repeating this statement because somebody actually said that if he was here, he'd be wearing an Armani suit. I just don't like that kind of stuff, right? But the case in point is, it'll never happen like that. It didn't happen like that. Then what's the other flip side to it too? Where you have Muslims, they're like, yo, there's more to Islam other than Aqidah and fiqh, right? We need to get out here and vote. We need to get out here and, work with the Kafirs. We need to, everything that Muslims do, they begin changing Islam themselves without anybody putting pressure on them except us. Because why? Because our mind is already trained. You can't be different than what's going on in the status quo. So what did they start doing? Oh, we're going to have an interfaith. Okay, well, how can we have an interfaith? Islam doesn't promote shirk. We don't associate partners with Allah. But what do they say? Well, we'll figure out a way to do it. Oh, you know what? The Bible and the Quran and the Torah. See, the Torah talks about Moses, right? Yeah. The Bible talks about Moses. The Quran talks about Moses. Okay. All right. Well, the Bible talks about Jesus. Now, we can't talk about Jesus. Jesus, nah. The Muslims believe in Jesus, but And the Christians believe it. The Jews, we can't do that. So how do we bring everybody under one umbrella? Oh, Abraham. Yeah, Abraham, the Abrahamic faith, as if he was on Kufr. You see what I'm saying? They're changing the mind state. And so then what happens is like, yeah, that's, you know what? That sounds good. That sounds good. Meanwhile, while they're flashing, using the television, which I'll talk about this stuff tomorrow when we're going to talk about Musa alayhi salam, and how that, how that part, you'll start seeing some of the tricks of the oppressors, right? But anyway, so they start flashing things on television, right? Like one thing I was driving down, it was funny because I was having a conversation with my wife and I was driving down, I got to Virginia. And it was funny because of all that stuff that was going on in Charlottesville and all that. I've never seen this coming down I-95. It's a big, huge Confederate flag. It's like in Emporia or something like that. Not too far from Carolina, right? And I'm like, man, these dudes threw this joint back up there quick, right? So I'm like, oh, so we was talking about it. I said, and so she was like, she was asking me, like, what was my view on it? And, and basically I said, that's their narrative. That's their narrative. We don't have a narrative to tell. I asked her, I said, do you think for one moment, if Black American Muslims became the power to be, do you think that we're going to take down a flag that says La ilaha illallah on it because it's offensive to those disbelievers? We ain't going to care nothing about it. We're going to be like, yo, look, this is our history. You guys lost. Sorry. I mean, keep it pushing, right? So, so what happens is you get distracted with emotional ranting. Oh, this is prejudice. And white people, they saying, oh, it's our history. Yeah, whatever. I don't care. It doesn't bother me one way or another. Don't get me wrong. Like, it can spark me and take me there. But that's your narrative. I'm here. I got a mission. I'm on my mission. My mission is get my family straight. Because we have things at a fundamental level that we ain't got straight. One of the things is family. You can't. One thing that they destroyed. If you never paid attention to the transatlantic slave trade, they destroyed the foundation of a Black family. They took away the man, right? Then who else they took away from that? The son. Ship them out. Left the women. They get rid of the boys. Why? Because that's right there is where all your strength is going to come from. If your son, you got a son, I don't care if your son don't know how to throw a punch. If that son witnessed his family get maimed in front of them, killed, mistreated, mother whipped and raped, I don't care. That little boy he gonna develop a heart of a lion, and he's gonna be like, look, something gotta give. You ain't keep doing my family like this. You see what I'm saying? So with every country, with war, there's always people that they're afraid of where they're gonna get rebellion. And with Black people in America, they're always afraid. They're always afraid that, look, this is what's gonna happen. If you go back to, a lot of people like to make reference back to the NOI. One of the things with the NOI is this. During that campaign, especially when Elijah Muhammad, before Malcolm came on the set, Elijah, he wasn't a great orator, but he was talking. And one of the things that he was doing was he was anti Black men joining the military. He was against that. As a matter of fact, I think he got locked up for it. You see what I'm saying? So, these type of things. But one of the things was, not only was he getting locked up and investigated, I forgot the guy's name. One of the top Japanese dudes that the Americans were fighting against. Him and Elijah was cool. So Elijah got on the hot seat. Now the feds is watching him because you cool with the guy who's known as their terrorist. So Americans was always like that. Even when America was developing America in itself, right? When I'm talking about was just the 13 colonies. You had the French here and you had the Spanish, right? They were trying to take land. It wasn't just the Louisiana Purchase. Yeah, we just bought the no. They was beefing. They was gang warring with each other. That's one of the things about when you study American history. These guys was never cool. Everybody was looking on how they was going to get over on the next person. So guess who was the person that everybody wanted to pull? Black people. Why? Y'all was the slaves. Y'all easy to turn on them. Hey, look, man, listen. This is what they said. Yo, look, you come join us. We'll let you free. See, white man, he don't want to let you go. You see what I'm saying? So like, some of us were thinking about like, yo, right? And this is when, Thomas Jefferson even proposed to his Congress or Senate, whatever his people in his cabinet was, that look, let's give the blacks the Northwest, right? So when you think of Northwest, what are you thinking of? What area are you thinking of in the country?
Montana.
Right. He wasn't talking about that. He talking about Indiana because they didn't even have all that yet. They didn't even conquer all that yet. They was just talking about like Indianapolis, Indiana. That was considered Northwest. And they said, let us do them like we did the other African nations. And they were like, nah, nope. Because there's always potential for uprising. You're always gonna watch that person. You mistreat a person. That person that you mistreated, there's always fear in the back of your mind that person's not going to let that go, and he's going to come back and get you eventually. He's going to do something back to you because the way you treated him. America's always like that with black Americans. So the best way to keep people unfocused is to keep them arguing and bickering about stuff that, and it takes the main focus off of this, and they're arguing, bickering, and going back and forth. So they're controlling mind control. They're controlling your mind, controlling your way of thinking. So now you have this big influx of Muslims, black people becoming Muslim, which we're the fastest and the largest group of people that are becoming Muslim. What's happening? Oh, you got everything spinning around you now. Salafi, Ashari, Wafdeen, NOI, voting, Abrahamic faith, halal meat, non-halal. The people are so confused. They just be like, man, I'm just gonna stand back. All I know is la ilaha illallah. That's all I care about, right? That's not enough to cut the deal. It gets you to paradise. You gonna spend some time in hellfire. So what does that do? That weakens you because when you go back, you got to keep referring back to the transatlantic slave trade, not the civil rights era. Don't worry about civil rights era. Civil rights era is when they started programming us. They started letting a lot of black men go to college, right? They started making an artificial minority where they started bringing in white women, as part of the minority, bringing in, immigrants as part of a minority. So they started changing the focus of everything. Go back to the plantation. What was the religion the majority of the slaves that were coming over? Islam. How did they communicate? Because each tribe has their own language. How did they communicate? Arabic language. They started stripping that one by one. Strip it down, strip it down, strip it down, strip it down. You can only speak English. You can't read. You can't do this. Why would you take away a person having the ability of reading the white man's language in order to make him desire to get it? So usually when you be like, you brothers, man, y'all don't even read because at one point in time we didn't read. So now every man like, I'm gonna read. I feel like I read. But he's reading and he has no direction of what he's reading. You can read a bunch of books and come out and still be stupid when you're done. How is that? Because you all over the place. Like that's the New York black man. He's everywhere. Dude is Buddhist. He's a Hindu. He's a Muslim. He's a 5%er. He got knowledge of everything and ain't going nowhere. You see what I'm saying? So you want knowledge that's going to empower you. And this is what Islam has done. So let's refer back to now the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. They were in Mecca, they were worshiping all kinds of idols, right? Let's make it parallel with our ancestors. We got stripped of that and we were given the one white idol. You see? It's illegal to worship. In Mecca, it was illegal to worship Allah. You had to worship Lat, Uzza, and all them other gods. They didn't want that. So what happened? People started changing. But Islam also started dealing with some of the social political issues that they had too. They didn't negate Tawheed. They had the Quran and everything was about Tawheed. What's the problem with Muslims today? Tawheed, Aqidah, and Fiqh ain't enough. No, Aqidah and Fiqh is your foundation and your salvation, right? Islam automatically comes with its own system. The problem with most Muslims today is they don't see Islam as a complete way of life. They actually see it as a religion. You see, a personal religion. It's my personal savior. You start talking about, listen, we need to develop a community where Muslims can live. Man, I'm trying to stop going to the strip club. I got issues. You see, so that becomes your battle now. And as far as anything else around you, you can't possibly worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with all of this kufr and craziness going around you. Because if you could, then the Muslims in Mecca would have stayed in Mecca and never went to Medina. You can't possibly worship Allah Ta'ala in the conditions that we live in. Oh, you got the crack house right here, the same crack house you used to be at. You know what I'm saying? You got the little hole joint over here, the same one you used to hang out with all the girls. You know everybody in there by first day. Here it is. I put my kufi on Friday. I'm the good brother. And then after Juma's over, bash the doors, lights out, I go back to the whole house and I go back to the crack house. You see? You can't possibly think a person like that is short vision. They don't see the long run. And guess what? In the midst of all that, we having children, right? We have children, girls or boys. And what happens to the cycle? They're growing up, we're telling them, yeah, you only worship Allah, you only worship Allah, you only worship Allah. Most of our children don't even never learn how to pray properly because most parents don't teach them, right? So then what happens? Yeah, you have what they had when they used to talk about some of the concepts. Like my grandmother was from down here in North Carolina, and one of her things that was always big, and I find myself still doing it with my children to this day, is she just always wash your feet before you go to bed. I don't know where it comes from, right? Sheikh Abdullah Hakeem Quick had a notion that it was, maybe it was like leftover reminiscences of Islam from making wudu, right? And our ancestors just held on to bits and pieces because they were losing their religion as time progressed. So if they lost their deen as time progressed, what do you think is going to happen to our children that's not getting any deen? They'll be like, yo, I'm going to put my kufi on, a Muslim, 110% Muslim, but they don't have the thing that's connecting them. If you take a people and give them a connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then equip them to deal with their social issues, their oppressor is fearful. This is why Pharaoh was fearful of Musa. We'll talk about that tomorrow. This is why he was fearful. It was like, whoa, wait a minute. I had a dream that some little boy took the oppressed group of Bani Israel and took them basically took my authority away. And this is what happened. They didn't say, hey, let's vote for Pharaoh, right? They didn't say let's vote for Pharaoh. It's like, look, man, you learn about Allah, we need to obey Allah, and we keep pushing, right? We keep pushing. It's natural in life, right? But it doesn't seem tangible for most of us. It's natural in life to start business, right? Islam promotes it 110%. This is an Islamic concept. Business, trade, make money, take care of your family. This is Islamic all the way, 110%. But what's happening today, you would think that, oh no, that's your secular knowledges. And then you got your Islamic knowledge over here. You're still thinking in the way of the Europeans. You see, that's what this is what's happening. So let's go back to Mecca. In Mecca, they had their Lot and Uzza, and one of the biggest threat to them is any leader, any ruler, right? When there's things set up, they're set up for money to be made around it. It's set up for money. Holidays are set up to make money. The more the vendors make money, the more money the government gets. That's just how it goes. That's why you got Christmas, you got Easter. Every month there's a major holiday. I don't think there's not one month without a holiday in it where they make money. And then you see the new millennium holidays. They created these holidays, shopping holidays, Black Friday and all that stuff. They created this stuff. And we're witnessing it. We're growing up witnessing it. It's actually history in the making. We ain't thinking nothing of it. We like, oh man, you get the cheapest electronics on those days and so on and so forth. They created this. They created this so that it can bring about more revenue. So a society, a leader, all his moves and motives is always connected to how can I bring in more money. Now, in Mecca, if they would have lost the Kaaba, which they later on did, where you couldn't worship Lot and Uzza no more, that was their big money maker. People would come from all over Arabia just to go there to worship one little statue, right? It was a threat. You tell them, wait, what did you say? There's no God except Allah. Hold on, what do you mean? Muhammad, you got to stop this stuff. They ain't paying him no mind at first. He started gaining momentum. What's the second thing he went after? He addressed after that? He started freeing slaves. Immediately. That's a social issue, right? He didn't say, yo, let's develop it. Let's go vote with the Quraysh. No. It was an underground movement, right? When you look at the history of Bloods and Crips, it's really a positive start out. It was a community affair, and then it just ended up getting linked up with the CIA and FBI, and they just went corrupt. Then he created two warring fractions. So usually most people start out to take care of themselves, to do for themselves. You had the whole black mafia thing in Philadelphia, right? It was do for self. That was their motto, do for self, right? By any means necessary. Whether they got to sell a couple bricks of coke, knock off a couple Italians, whatever they had to do, that's how they was going to do it. Criminal element. The mind is trained for most of us to go that route. We're like, yo, we gotta be a criminal. Some stuff is not criminal. It's only criminal by definition by the overseers. Some stuff is criminal by definition. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion in itself. But where we at in Mecca, so what happened in Mecca, the Muslims realized in Mecca, we have to retreat. We can't be around everybody. We have to fortify ourselves. So what did they do? They started meeting at Akram's house, right? Akram was a Sahaba. He was one who embraced Islam. That's where the Prophet ﷺ used to teach at. People would come into town and they look and they like, listen, I hear there's a prophet in Mecca. His name is Muhammad. And dudes are screaming, where you come from? Who are you? How you know Muhammad? How you hear his name? All right, well, look, I'm gonna show you where you're at. I'm gonna take you to him. And they would go and they learn Islam. Many people will come to him, learn, go back to their family, right? With us, reason how we think Islam is just a religion, a personal religion, we'll learn it. We don't say nothing else to our family. We don't say nothing else to our family. We don't strategize. We don't have a strategy. We just go along with the flow, right? He's just, I'm Muslim, so what? Matter of fact, we go to war with our family. We didn't even give them a proper understanding, an invitation. Hey, listen, this is what La ilaha illallah is about. We don't even do all that, right? We just go right at him. Jesus ain't God, right? I mean, which is good, but at the same time, it can have a backlash. You know what I'm saying? It can have a backlash. You know how our family gets. We split up. Like, what? Man, you just came here, man. You the devil, man. You just came in here and split everything up. You could have used a little more tact, right? So, but, we just come right in and go right at it. Even when you read about in the history of the Prophet ﷺ, how the Sahabas, how they would go back to their family, they had more tact than they did. And their family supported them even though they didn't agree with them, right? Some of them would, like, some of their children, I can't think of the names right offhand. I'm trying to, condense everything and talk as fast as possible. Some of them would chain their children up so that they couldn't be with the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Like, nah, you going back with that Muhammad? Nah, no, you're not. I'm gonna kidnap you and we're gonna tie you up, right? And this happened. When you study Sirah, you will see it. Some of our situations, we do have similar situations. It's really rough, especially for the girls, right? I don't know why, but it's real rough for them. The moment they come in there with a kimar, it's a wrap. You might as well just go ahead and find her. When she takes Shahada, find her somewhere to live or find her a husband, because by the time she get home and her family get done with her, it's a wrap. I know people that literally, when they went home, like, I'm talking about sisters, when they would go home, they took Shahada, when they would go home and go in their homes, they would have to take their garbs off at the door in order to go in their house. And when they leave outside, they had their little garbs in their bag. This is in Philly, come out their little bag and throw their garbs on and go to the masjid. Women always have it rough for some reason, and usually probably because men, we kind of like incognito with it. We just throw a little kufi on and we good, right? Women, they got to cover the whole body up, and it's obvious they Muslim. Us, we can kind of like dip around for a little bit till they get there. I'm like, boy, you want any chitlins? Nah, I'm Muslim. As you know, it starts coming out, it starts unraveling. Nah, I'm Muslim. I can't be eating that stuff. You know what I mean? That's when it starts unraveling. Oh yeah, when you start getting into that, because even like when I became Muslim, my grandmother, she was receptive to me becoming Muslim, right? My uncles and them kind of like treated me like I just turned on the family. Like, yo, you ain't no real Muslim. You just probably only doing that because you got locked up. You ain't real. We had that kind of thing. Sometimes it would get to the point we almost went to blows. You know what I mean? So we like, yo, hold on, man. Nah, you ain't gonna keep disrespecting me like that. So, we have those same challenges. You can identify more with the Sahabas then you can't do with this whole preppy, intellectual, over-intellectualizing idea that Abrahamic faith. My grandmother didn't want to hear that crap. We was talking to her. She didn't want to hear about that. She wanted to hear what y'all think about Jesus, right? The one time when what I used to do, I would sit down and watch The Messenger with my family. Like, yo, let's watch The Message, right? You remember The Message, the old movie about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? And they used to get them all the time. I'll be sitting there, I just watch their reaction and get to the part where they went to Abyssinia and they went to go talk to Najashi. Bro, I watched everybody look all teary-eyed. Oh man, the Muslims, y'all ain't that bad. We didn't have no war, no blowout, no intellectual blowout. Matter of fact, we did one time at my aunt's house. We had a little family dinner. And my grandmother was talking, and she was going on about, the Muslims, and my grandson, he doing good, and Muslim this, Muslim that, and my only problem is they don't accept the Holy Ghost. And I was like, Grandma, ain't no such thing as Holy Ghost. Bro, I ain't had nowhere to sleep for about a week. I was living with my grandmother at the time. She's like, you gonna get out of my house talking about the Holy Ghost. I was like, dang, I had to call man, I stayed in the man. I done got kicked out. I told my grandma ain't no Holy Ghost, she kicked me out, huh? So I'm like, it is what it is, right? So we have to approach our families different, because the one good thing about our family approach is a lot of our families are already receptive to Islam, believe it or not. Despite of, once you get through the Bible thumping, they hit a point, it starts breaking down. They like, man, you know what? MashaAllah, They get to that point, and they start opening their eyes, and Allah, softens their heart, And sometimes you don't have to, how can I say it? And I hate talking like this, because what I'm trying to say, and the reality is, you don't even have to be overbearing with, like you was just telling me the situation about your cousin. What you gotta do, hang out with them. They watch you. They know you when you was you, and they know you when you the real you now as a Muslim. They're like, man, cuz. You be like, and sometimes we mistake it like, yo, you just doing that because I'm your favorite cousin. No, they actually really believe like, yo, you on the right path. Like, yo, I remember you, and I see you now. See, and so then that influences them. So anyway, you had these kind of situations similar as well in Mecca, right? So I'm gonna get to discussing about the tafsir of Surah Kafirun. All right. Now, this came, years as time developed, because you remember the Prophet ﷺ was in Mecca for 13 years, calling people to Islam. 13 years. So, the Prophet ﷺ, the reason why this surah was revealed, Surah Kafirun, is Surah 109 in the Quran. Ibn Abbas said that Walid ibn Mughira and As ibn Wa'il and Aswad ibn Abdul Muttalib and Umayy ibn Khalif approached the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All of these men's names, a few of them became Muslim later, but at the time they weren't Muslim, and they were part of the Quraysh panel, right? And so what happened was the families were splitting up. A lot of the youth were becoming Muslim. The old heads weren't becoming Muslim because they had too much at stake, right? They were going to lose money, and it was all kinds of things they had to lose. Youth didn't have that same problem. They like, look, man, I believe in Allah, and that's it. I never believe in lying. I don't like the way you do things. I don't like the way you mistreat the poor people. I don't like the way you mistreat slaves. You see what I'm saying? So it was starting to cause a social uprising. People were like, being bothered by this. And so, they will always try to come to an agreement. It wasn't just like nonstop war, all or nothing. We're going to fight forever. It wasn't like that. So anyway, they came and made a proposal to the Prophet ﷺ. All right. Now I want you to think about this and think about 2018. Okay. It came to the Prophet ﷺ. They proposed to him that he should worship their gods, their idols, for 1 year. And in the following year, they'll worship Allah. You see the problem with that? They want you to commit kufr 1 year, and the next year they'll embrace Tawheed but go back to kufr. Right? What do we have today? The sovereign psyche. See, when you have a sovereign way of thinking and you're backed by your belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you have that, right? You have that, it's like, look, I ain't compromising that. You relive, you have the spirit of Bilal. You're like, yeah, you can put a bolt on my chest, burn me in the sun, baby. There's only one God, Ahadun Ahad. Right? That's how you feel when you really feel it. But when you ain't really feeling it, you're starting to get weak. It don't sound too bad. I mean, what's the problem? You know, they can worship 1 year, we worship the other. At least we get to use the Kaaba, right? That's how you start thinking. It's how most Muslims think today. Well, I got to do what I got to do, you know. I mean, I can't do everything like this. You have to develop that fortitude. You have to. Do you know the difference with the one thing that stood out about the civil rights era, and what I'm calling the civil rights era, that was when they had the dogs barking. You know, we here in North Carolina, you know, no coloreds only, no colors over here. We don't want no niggers and no Puerto Ricans, you know, no Mexicans. We don't want none of the cans over here, whites only, right? You know that era. One thing we couldn't do was you couldn't hide this black skin, right? You take the kufi off today. You shave your beard down, right? You change your name from Muhammad to Maurice. You see what I'm saying? There's a big difference between the two. So that civil rights era, it was like, yo, you know, we willing to die for this. What we gonna come up with? They knew, and everybody knows that the philosophy of Malcolm was correct. Separation, rebuild yourself, start from scratch. Everybody knows that. But the lesser of the two evils, the easiest route was to go the route of integration, right? And even like, you know, in latter statements and speeches, Martin felt that he made a mistake leading people down that path. Because what happened was you taking the people that had no identity. When there was segregation, it gives you time to develop yourself, right? Then now, look at the relation with this. This is even from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the fire of the disbeliever and the fire of the believer should not even be seen by each other. What is that? Separation, right? So what do you do when you separate? You're building your esteem. Sports. Two teams don't practice on the same field. They don't. Even if they were in the same sport complex, one is way over on this end and the other is all the way on the other. Professional sports. What do they do in professional sports? It is illegal to use spying devices to see what plays the other team is doing. If they find that out, they'll take away your win or, you know, whatever the case, or fine you some money. So what happens with the Muslim, and what happens to a people who wants to integrate and live with the people who really oppresses them? What happens? You get weak. You look at it as a privilege, like, man, I'm glad I'm able to do this, man. You know, get this good water with this bottle like this. We wouldn't drink. We drink it out of metal cups. So you see what I'm saying? You start looking at the smallest little things, and you feel like you're empowered, but really you're really weak. And so really what today's 2018 politics is make enough noise, you know, to the point that they'll just give me what I want. That's usually what our women and children do. Make enough noise until you get what they want. Yo, I want this. But you said you was going to get it. You start feeling bad. Like, all right, you know what, I give it to you. You know, and that's 2018 politics with black Americans. You got raising of hell. Man, they keep shooting everybody. They shooting them. We're marching, burning down buildings, breaking windows. And what happens? They get acquitted. They get a job somewhere else. They fire him. He just go work at the next county over. All right? No big deal. So, anyway, so back to Surah Kafirun. So their proposal to the Prophet ﷺ was, look, you worship our idols, and we'll worship your Allah. Right? There you go. So then is another narration mentioned that Imam Tabarani, he said that the pagans of Mecca proposed to the Prophet ﷺ, we'll give you so much wealth that you'll become the richest man in Mecca. and we'll give you whichever woman you like in marriage, and we are even willing to follow you and obey you as our leader, as long as you do not speak ill of our gods. So all that, when you be like, listen, man, this is kufr. Like, brothers, we can't talk like that. You can't talk like that. Yeah, these type of things, this type of thing. Because in order to build a supremacist mind state, a supreme mind state, somebody has to be on the inferior side. Somebody got to be on the losing end. Nobody plays football and both teams come out like, no. When it's game time, y'all like two dogs on the field. Whoever's living is going to live, and whoever dies is going to die. And when you step off that field, you're stepping on him like, right? Now, I'm not telling people breeding that kind of arrogance when you mistreat people, but I'm just talking about the nature, the nature. And if you feel like everybody else is doing better than you, then what's going to happen when you try to do something? What you're trying to do is never good enough because you think everybody else is better than you anyway. So automatically, your mind is trained. Winston Churchill said it. It ain't no more the empires of land. It's the empires of the mind. You take away the mind, you control everything. You take it all. You change a war. You change the whole concept of war. You're taking away their mental state. You took it all away from them. So anyway, so he says, if you do not agree to this, then let us agree that you worship our gods for 1 year, and we will worship your gods for another year. So basically, he got offered all of these things, and if you don't accept all that, then the least you can do is you worship our gods 1 year, and we'll worship your gods the other year.
Celebrate Christmas 1 year, we'll celebrate Eid.
There you go. See? So he said, there's a report from Abu Salih that Ibn Abbas narrates. He said that the pagans of Mecca made a proposal for compromise. At least he said it at minimum. So they went from, we'll give you women, money, we'll accept you as the leader, and if you can't do that, then worship our God, and then we'll worship yours, right? He said, Abu Salih is narrating that Ibn Abbas said that at minimum, at least touch our gods. Come on. Yeah, they went from offer you the whole house to, all right, I'll tell you what. Won't you worship with us 1 year, and we'll worship your God the next year? All right, if you can't at least do that, at least just rub our God. Just touch him.
Please just say Jesus.
And he said, Ibn Abbas said, he said, this is when Jibril alayhi salam descended with the surah, Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun, right? That's when that surah was revealed. And, that is like really, I didn't want to go too deep into it and start discussing because there's like a lot of discussion about, and that's more so focused on tafsir and ulum al-Quran, sciences of the Quran, but they're talking about whether this surah was abrogated by ayat of Saif, where Allah commanded the believers to fight the disbelievers, or, because at the end of the ayat, the end of the surah, the last ayat in there is lakum dinukum waliya din. To you be your deen, and to us be ours, right? That was in Mecca, right? So they're saying that when that ayat was revealed about when they were given, the believers were given instruction to fight, all of those ayats where it was leaving the disbelievers to just worship whatever, all that stuff was abrogated, and fighting was the command, right? Fighting disbelievers until they testify La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. So therefore it changed, right? So the Muslim mind is controlled by means of the Quran. You can't possibly develop this independent way of thinking if you're listening to contrary opinions that goes over that of the Quran. There are some fundamental things that you don't have to be a scholar to understand. You don't have to be a scholar to understand fundamental things. One of the fundamental things is La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. You don't have to be a scholar to understand that, right? Pray 5 times a day. You don't have to be a scholar to understand that you got to pray 5 times a day. It's not a choice. It is an obligation. It's not a choice. You don't have to be a scholar to understand that you have to pray. That you have to fast Ramadan. It's an obligation. It's not a choice. All of these things are commands from the Quran and from the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. You don't have to. Now, different in discussion about the intricate details about wudu, where your hands go in prayers, this way or that way, yeah, that you have to be a little bit more scholarly to have those discussions. But the concept is face the Qibla, pray, right? You don't have to be a scholar to know that. Matter of fact, a person, and it's not permitted for you to remain ignorant of these things that we're discussing. When I mean, like, what breaks wudu, what invalidates the prayer, you have to know these things. But do you have to know the proof on which position is stronger, whether you put your hand over your chest or on your sides? You don't necessarily have to know that, no. Would it invalidate the prayer? No. Is that your concern? Is that something that, that we need to, draw swords over? No. The Muslims never did, and we ain't now. Many people always cop out. This is something they've been fighting over 1,400 years, and we ain't gonna get it. Bro, nobody's been rumbling over if you pray a Qab to Subtle.
I think if you put your left hand over your right hand.
Oh, yeah, well, if you put your left hand over your right hand, it's wrong. People gonna be like, nah. Even the people that don't pray like that be like, oh, what you doing, bro?
I seen a bro on Facebook, he recorded his prayer, and I was like, astaghfirullah. His left hand over his right.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
So
excited to record this.
So you know that some of the things that we're getting sidetracked and focusing on, that is just basically here like the lone wolf, the lone sheep, I meant to say. While Shaitan is the wolf, he's snatching them. Right? We're breaking away. We like, yo, man, I'll go to the masjid when I get some time. Right? You have one masjid, you might like a city like this, you have one masjid, you be like, man, I get there when I get there. No, the masjid is your source of protection. At least be there for the 5 prayers. The rest of your night will be cool. I'm telling you. Even if you was sneaking out to the gambling spots and all that, eventually you're going to give up something. Either you're going to give up salat or you're going to give up gambling, right? I've seen it. I've been Muslim long enough. I done ran up and kicked in doors and crack houses and all kinds of stuff looking for brothers. Me and a couple brothers, come on, man. Your wife, your family needs you. Come on, let's go. Right? We did that. That's what we used to do. Hey, yo, brother such and such missing. I know where he at. I'll be right back. We go get him. You see what I'm saying? I don't get smoked out now. You still my brother. Let's go, man. Dust that stuff off. Get yourself together. You get back in these ranks. You see? You have to have that type of brotherhood because most people are out here. They feel nobody care about them anyway. And especially now, as callous and heartless as Muslims are, we make jokes about everything on Facebook now, on social media. Oh, look at the brother. You don't know the people's situation. They really got real life situations that, some people don't know. Like sometimes, like in Philadelphia, one of the most common things you see in Philly is a woman, she may just became Muslim. She will have her face covered, but got on booty shorts and everything else. And you'd be like, that's how we all react. Like, yo, what is wrong with you? So some of us be like, yo, assalamu alaikum, sis, you Muslim? Yeah. You be like, yo, you got the face, yeah. Yo, all right, listen, they believe that that's what they supposed to do. I've had conversations with sisters about that. Like, yo, what do you who told you, like, if anything, I mean, cover the rest of your body, if that's the case, Now, look, she ain't got no problem covering her face. So that means that she ain't gonna have a problem covering the rest of her body, right? But she didn't know. She like, yo, look, my boyfriend, he Muslim. He told me, men can't be looking me in my face. And I was like, but he can look at your body, though. You see what I'm saying? It's just misinformation. But once you educate them, right, and they may not be able to afford Islamic garbs. If you provide that for them, she wasn't married at the time. She had just took Shahada. He was Muslim, right? So he didn't know either. You see what I'm saying? We actually met the dude. You know what I'm saying? We actually met him. She brought him down. We all talked. You know what I'm saying? What happened was he had just got out of jail. He had became Muslim, but he didn't really know much about Islam. So he kind of like tried to keep to himself. You know what I'm saying? We like, nah, you got to get married. This is how it goes. Blase, blase, blah. Alhamdulillah, one out of the few people that we seen like this got married. He was one of them. The other ones, we ain't seen no more. But the bottom line is just simple dialogue. We don't even have dialogue no more, and we don't know how to talk to each other. We talk at each other. We don't even have a conversation. Hey, why you do what you doing? Nothing wrong. But we automatically think, our mind automatically goes to and say what? Oh, you starting fitna. You questioning me? You see what I'm saying? He's like, yo, nah, I'm trying to get an understanding of what's going on.
Right.
You know, it's like, so the mentality, and sometimes what I've learned is people that get that defensive, they don't know, they really don't know how to defend themselves, and they don't know how to articulate and have a discussion. You see, so this is a big problem in today's time. So what I'm gonna do real quick, before we end this, I'll just read the Arabic and then the translation of Surah Kafirun, because I just mentioned why the surah was revealed, and I pointed that out to show you the relevancy of it today, and how you have to have a Muslim mind. A Muslim mind can only be developed by means of Islam. All right, you have to understand the dynamics of where you live at and how to apply the Islam that you can apply. Compromise doesn't always necessarily mean that that's the best route to go. It just sounds like a good idea. Like, yeah, let's just go ahead and vote. You see what was said. First they offered them women and money and everything like that, and they got down to the bare minimum. Well, at least we can touch they God. Just at least rub it. You see what I'm saying? And what's happening with us? We just going all the way down. Well, I shave all the beard. No, I ain't touching my beard. I'm Muslim. I'm gonna grow my beard, man. It's bottom line. You say I'm protected under your constitution that I could practice my religion, then we gonna fight for it. You see what I'm saying? And I mean fight metaphorically. I don't mean physically fight. Some people will take me like, yo, he's calling it jihad. Next thing you know, I got the feds, the letter boys looking for me, But anyway, so, but you have to take a stance eventually. It has to be taken, and the more the stance is taken, the more, people will respect you. If we still Muslim in 2018, and we shucking and jiving about being able to, pray and, wear Islamic attire, when you got a whole daggone country, no, not daggone, a whole damn country divided on whether or not a boy can call himself a girl and a girl can call herself a boy, and they got rights to do so, and we still talking about whether or not we can wear a thobe or not, bro, we in bad shape. We not doing good. We in bad shape. We still arguing about whether or not, thobe is something that's from the deen or not. We in bad shape. Because homosexuals, they've been in the closet for a very long time, and now they got political power. Meanwhile, the Muslims are still shucking and jiving, ducking, cutting beards, and taking off garbs. You see what's happening? So what's happening? You're trained to remain oppressed. You don't want to come out your oppressed state. Right? And so this is what you see, the opposite from Surah Kafirun. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said to them, right, after this compromise, remember, then the ayat was revealed, Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun, oh you disbelievers, right? Say to all you disbelievers, La a'budu ma ta'budun. We don't worship what you worship. We ain't even on the same thing, right? This is Allah talking. This ain't just somebody just making it up. This is the Quran. So this already tells you, yo, we will never be the same. We'll never be the same, no matter what we do. Then Allah Ta'ala, he says what? وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ. Right? And you're not going to worship what I worship. We already know that because you're a disbeliever. You're not going to do it. This is the Quran. Right? So, and then Allah Ta'ala, he says, وَلَا أَنَا عَابِدُونَ مَا عَبَدْتُمْ. Right? And no, you worship the one whom I worship. وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا عَبُدْ لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينِ. Right? Allah Ta'ala tells them, yo, look, to you be your way, and to ours be ours. Right? But like I said, when you get into the whole scholastic discussion, it gets a little, complicated for understanding. You need people qualified in that area to instruct you about this particular issue. But the bottom line is, what does the surah say? It is what it is. right? It is what it is. We don't need to be sitting in the mass here arguing about it because the truth of the matter is it still stands. You be your way and ours be ours. We ain't on the same thing. You see? So that's why I picked this particular surah around the center around this subject of developing a sovereign psyche. Now, tomorrow, part 2, we're going to discuss a little bit about Fir'aun and Musa. If you look throughout the Quran and throughout Islamic history, you know, you will see that you have to have a Muslim psyche, all right? We probably should have said developing a Muslim psyche, right? Because why? Because being a Muslim, it requires you to have some level of independence from everybody, you know, in the society. It requires it. You can't do what everybody else do. While everybody else doing their thing, you can't do what they're doing. So, you know, so with that, inshallah, we can close out, entertain questions, or whatever the case is. Let me see what Amir Ismail want to do. Inshallah, the live is still going. I don't know if it like has comments or anything, like that. But we'll see. See what you want to do.
Live audience. Verify like the one back when you were like saying it's no compulsion in religion. So when they had killed the disbelievers, like explain that better.
Well, that ayah as well was abrogated behind ayatul sayf. Right. The Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith what is known as mutawatir, widespread hadith, which is like on the same level as the ayah. He says, "Umirtu aqatil an-nas hatta yashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa yashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah." Right? I've been ordered to fight people until they testify that there's no God except Allah. So, at one point in during the Muslims' struggle, you were prohibited from fighting this. So it's not just like so barbaric and you just run around, you ain't Muslim. It ain't like that. You see what I'm saying? You still give them the call, but when it's time to rumble, there's nothing holding them back. When the Amir gives that call, that's it. It's not a thing where a person can just individually, we're just gonna go out and go fight disbelievers until it's not like, it's not just like that. And that's where that lack of that approach that people are having today since 9/11, post 9/11, about mentioning jihad and it being taboo, it leaves a vacuum for people to do that kind of interpretation. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? When you're not teaching about jihad and its rules and rules of engagement, then you leave the other side is, the CIA and, what other flunky Muslims that follow them can create that and say, hey, we need to go shoot a synagogue up. Come on, let's go blow up the temples. Let's do this. It leaves that open. Why? Because they'll just quote the same hadith I just quoted to you. Right. You see what I'm saying? So this is a Jamaat protects that. When a Jamaat declares jihad, when this jihad is declared, it's not a secret. You don't have no secret cells somewhere, laying, in New York City underground. No, it's like, we coming to rumble. Embrace Islam, be safe. If not, we're gonna fight you. It's none of that, you made a secret location video with somebody getting his head cut off and we emailed it to CNN. Nah, that stuff is for TV. You see what I'm saying?
That's how they like on TV they got the wrong meaning of jihad. Because jihad is like the struggle.
Right.
Like you could give money.
Right.
It ain't all about war.
Another thing is too that that Newburgh 6 group, the 6 brothers who got locked up and stuff. Their trial was here in New Bern, but it happened in New York though. But they were tried here in New Bern. Poverty. If we don't start understanding poverty from an Islamic perspective, everybody's not going to be rich. You're not guaranteed to have everything at your fingertips. You're going to go through struggles in life. Allah's going to test you. All that comes from a lack of understanding. And you bringing in this guy coming in driving these fancy cars like, you want to get some money in the way of Allah? Come with me. We're going to go blow up a synagogue. You see what I'm saying? Because you know when you're hungry, you're going to do whatever you got to do to eat. Right? One thing that always stood out for me, an old guy from the neighborhood, he said, yo, you know, you might be out here, you might be out here hungry, but you ain't got to act like you starving. You ain't got to be out here living like you starving. When you living like you starving, you a savage. You do whatever. I'm going in the garbage can. I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it how I live it. Sometimes our desire to have money, it will supersede us and we'll disobey Allah. We'll choose, that will be an option. Look, I ain't got time for this. I'm out of here. I need to get this bread. This is what happens. It puts us in the jam. So we have to be able to see. We have to see provisions come from Allah. Jobs are part of Allah's provisions for us. Not the job is our provision, right? We have to permeate that in the heart, and Muslims have to understand that. Once you get that, because when you look at, I'm telling you, when you read Sirah, you read the life, the biography of the Prophet, say something, you read about the people that was around him, you will see they were not rich. Many of them were poor, dirt poor. And they left with whatever little bit possessions. They left Mecca and went to Medina and started life over. And as time progressed, many of them became rich. You know what I mean? So there's no stagnation, you know, with regards to that, inshallah. Hey, Sheikh, what we doing? Yeah, no comments or questions from nobody, so.
You ready?
Yeah, inshallah. So we can stop. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.